Vanessa. Vanessa. I'll work on it. I know. I said I was gonna review Paddington in Peru next, but that little polite bear can wait, cause Daredevil is back. Hi everybody, Anthony here from Awesome Anthony Productions, and today I'm gonna do something a little different. My first TV review, a full spoiler review of episodes 1 and 2 of Daredevil Born Again. But before we get started, at the end of the video, if you think I've earned it, please leave a like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss any of my new reviews. Now let's get into it. Like many others, I was a huge fan of the Netflix Daredevil show. It was dark, brutal, and grounded, packed with incredible performances and truly astounding adaptations of some of the Man Without Fear's best story arcs.
You hit him and they
I love it.
up. I hit him and they stay down.
I love it more.
Get to work.
I love it.
That show wasn't just great, it was iconic, especially for Daredevil fans and fans of his comics, which I actually am this time. I've read a lot of Daredevil comics over the last 27 years. So when it got canceled, it felt like a gut punch. A tragedy that left fans spiraling into depression, denial, and years of Save Daredevil hashtags. Then, hope arrived. Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio started to pop up in random MCU projects as Kingpin and Daredevil, and then we finally got the announcement. Daredevil was coming back with his own show on Disney+. But the celebration was kind of short-lived because news started to come out about this production being an absolute circus. Halfway through shooting, we learned that the show was basically a reboot, stripping away any remaining key characters or connections to the original Netflix series, and killing off Foggy and Karen off-screen. That would have been riot-worthy. Anyway, during the strikes from a couple years ago, Marvel decided to go back and start to retool some of their projects, including this one, especially after they realized that this really did a disservice to the Netflix series and it really wasn't working. So they hit the reset button. For the most part, but I'll get to that later. They brought in Punisher showrunner Dario Scarapone and his entire team to retool it into more of a soft reboot sequel to the original series. So, now that we're here, finally, how did these first 2 episodes turn out? Buckle up because there's a lot to unpack here. Picking up 6 years after the events of Daredevil Season 3, Born Again opens with something that made my Daredevil-deprived heart just sing. Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock, Eldon Henson's Foggy Nelson, and Deborah Ann Wall's Karen Page leaving the law offices of Nelson, Murdock, and Page and heading to Josie's bar together. The old gang back together again. But then the pain begins, because just as they're settling in, Wilson Bethel's Ben Poindexter, aka Bullseye, decides to crash the party. And he shoots Foggy in the heart, killing him. Yeah, they went there. And the second that he hears Foggy's heart stop, Matt goes absolutely insane. And in a moment of raw, unfiltered rage and pain, he tosses Bullseye right off of a building, fully intending on killing him and crossing that moral line that he's always struggled with. Dex survives, barely, thanks to the skeletal enhancements he got at the end of Season 3, but the damage is already done. Matt is broken. Cut to a year later. Karen's moved to San Francisco, and Matt has completely abandoned Daredevil, now focusing on his new law firm with his new partners, Kirsten McDuffie, played by Nikki M. James, and former detective turned PI Cherry, played by Clark Johnson, along with a new love interest, therapist Heather Glenn, played by Margarita Laviva. Meanwhile, Vincent D'Onofrio's Wilson Fisk is back in New York, recovering from the events of Hawkeye and Echo, and he's making a power play.
The mayor serves his city. I can see you're not entirely convinced.
He's running for mayor of New York. I gotta work on that voice. I think it's getting better. While simultaneously trying to fix his fractured marriage with Isla Zerer's Vanessa. But the past comes knocking at Matt Murdock's door when Hector Ayala, aka White Tiger, played by the late Camar de los Reyes, is falsely accused of killing a cop. The real culprits? Corrupt officers that have the symbol of the Punisher tattooed on them, forcing Matt to dive into a harsh reality. That his life of Daredevil is not even close to being over. But before we dive into that, let's talk about my biggest issues with this new show so far. And oh boy, we need to talk about them. The biggest flaw here is the obvious patchwork that went with these 2 creative visions. The opening and early scenes post-time jump feel very much like an epilogue to Daredevil Season 3. Then, suddenly, we're smack dab in soft reboot territory, with new side characters that just kind of feel like placeholder versions of Karen and Foggy. Kirsten and Cherry aren't bad, but they have big shoes to fill. And right now, they just feel like discount replacements.
How dare you stand where he stood?
Speaking of Karen and Foggy, what the hell, Marvel? After all that press about how the showrunners fought to bring back the original heart of the show, you kill Foggy in the first 5 minutes and send Karen off to San Francisco? Kind of felt like a straight up bait and switch. And yeah, I've seen the interviews and excerpts where Dario Scarapone talks about how this is not going to be the last we'll see of Foggy. Maybe his death is a fake out, like when Vanessa faked his death in the comments and put him into witness protection. But even if that's true, this still really stings. That said, that whole scene and that fight between Matt and Bullseye are absolutely incredible. Sure, the CGI uses a little wonky here and there because there wasn't really any used in the original series, but the choreography is brutal, relentless, and classic Daredevil, especially with new added acrobatics that really make it feel more like the comics. And the way they visualize Matt's radar sense now, using aspect ratio shifts and really focusing on him narrowing down specific sounds, is a pretty fantastic upgrade too. And the emotional weight of having Matt stop the fight with Bullseye every now and then to check in on Foggy's dwindling heartbeat, absolutely heartbreaking.
I am dead inside.
Fast forwarding to Fisk's mayoral run, I love that they're pulling from the Devil's Reign storyline, with Fisk running on a campaign of outlawing vigilantes. Also, that Spider-Man reference got me hyped.
But New Yorkers are tough. We know how to take care of ourselves. We don't need a gun-toting vigilante who wears a skull on his chest, or a man who dresses in a spider outfit.
I also appreciate the fact that this show is acknowledging the passage of time. Fisk has been dealing with the fallout from Echo for a long time, and it really took a toll on his marriage. And seeing Vanessa step into more of a queenpin role while Fisk is away from his territory, unexpected but definitely brilliant, especially with her dealing in illegal art more than weapons and drugs because she knows the art scene. Now let's talk about one of my favorite scenes here. Matt and Fisk's diner confrontation.
Oh, I will admit, it's not entirely unpleasant seeing you again.
Cinema!
Apparently, they weren't even supposed to meet early on in this season, but the showrunners fought for it because they wanted to see these two get face to face again. And thank God they did, because this scene felt so much like the old school Daredevil show. It starts like two old friends catching up, but underneath it's a chess match, with Matt warning Fisk that if he steps out of line and starts his illegal activities again, he's gonna come for him. And Fisk doing the exact same to Matt, warning that if he starts up with Daredevil again, he will take him down. Chef's kiss. And then we get the ending of episode 2. Holy, Matt absolutely mauling those two corrupt cops, snapping one's arm into a disgusting compound fracture before screaming in agony because he realizes that he's still not done doing the devil's work. That is peak Daredevil right there. I could go on and on about Heather Glenn's connection to Fisk and Vanessa and how it's going to cause a lot of drama with them and Matt, the late Ben Urich's niece Bibi running around doing a street-level news show, the subtle buildup of the villain Muse in the background, who I cannot wait to see in live action. He's like one of my favorite Daredevil villains, and he was barely used in the comics. Michael Gandolfini's surprisingly fun Gen Z Fisk campaign staffer, but this review is already pretty long. So overall, my feelings of Daredevil Born Again are kind of complicated, but veer more towards the positive. On the one hand, I absolutely love seeing Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio back in their roles. The action is brutal, the cinematography is leagues above other Disney Plus MCU shows, and the story here has serious potential. On the other hand, the soft reboot elements feel forced, the CGI is kind of rough, and the editing is noticeably choppy, especially if you know about the retooling here. But you know I will be glued to my screen every Tuesday at 9 p.m. for the new episodes. And that wraps up my review of the first 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again, my first ever TV series review. If you like this one, let me know. Maybe I'll keep doing these. And in the meantime, please leave a like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss any of my reviews. While you're at it, you can scroll down to the description below, find the links to my social media, leave a comment, let me know if you saw the show and what you thought, or you can click or tap on these cards right here. I'll take you to my review of The Monkey, or just over to my channel where you can check out the rest of my reviews and my shorts. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you next week for my review of Bong Joon-ho's latest movie, Mickey 17.